Amelia comes back to her hometown years after her husband's passing. She wants to reconnect with her children, Taylor and Zach. She sees them exploring their lives while she struggles with hers. Famous romance novelist Amelia Bloom doesn't think romance is all about meet-cutes and happily ever afters. She loves those stories, but also thinks there are different ones. She knows some people look like the perfect couple on the outside, but they have secrets. She feels most romantic stories are less predictable. Amelia feels those who are rigid about their soulmate often miss the person whose differences fit their own. Margot hides her face in a book as she navigates the road's obstacles. Amelia feels romantic characters need complexities, and their growth over time makes them more appealing. I can't argue with that. This philosophy has made her the New York Times bestseller. She arrives in her hometown Penfield for yet another book tour. She plans to keep a low profile during her stay at the hotel. She's relieved that the locals finally convinced her publisher to send her home for a week. The hotel manager assures her she will have the penthouse suite and access to the martini bar. Before he gives her the keys, he makes her sign his copy of her novel. Taylor, who runs the Bloomeria, a plant shop, contacts her suppliers about a delayed shipment. She is impressed that her employee, Hannah, can keep track of her conversations and update social media at the same time. Hannah feels being a Gen Z makes her a flawless multitasker. She is obsessed with the Classify app, and she recently posted updates about a shoplifter. It's an all-in-one app for dating, local events, and posting updates. Taylor doesn't understand the app, but Hannah feels it's very useful. It also has someone asking for feet pics, so Taylor might have a point. Hannah thinks Taylor should advertise their shop on the app. Between Two Covers Bookstore also keeps posting their in-store events. They're also promising free gifts, which Hannah thinks might be drawing in new customers. Zach shows his design for the bookstore mural to the manager, Margot, who doesn't think it captures their message accurately. Margot gets notifications from a bowling league she's following on Classify. Their drama has her hooked, and she knows everything about them. Zach wonders if it's an app for singles, but she gets offended at his assumption that she's looking for a man. Margot uses Classify for work and thinks owning cats doesn't make her a lonely spinster. She knows some people use it like a dating app, but she doesn't want the headache. Max is also invested in Classify and can tell when two posters are perfect for each other. Frankie doesn't care about the love lives of strangers on an app. He shows her how even vegans are looking for romantic connections under the guise of advice. He selectively keeps messaging people and is vague about whether he's available. He thinks a poster called Ready to Bloom really needs his help because they sound like a friendless loner. Frankie refuses to believe these people on the app are so desperate. Max is sure the user is a woman. Since Frankie is single, he asks her to seek the user out. Amelia strikes up a conversation with the bartender after ordering gin. Her editor wants her to incorporate social media into her books, so she's doing research. The bartender feels like she's catfishing locals as she travels. She insists she just wants to learn more about people's dreams and desires. Amelia finds the online world superficial and thinks a face-to-face conversation is more productive. Even the bartender agrees people tend to overshare when they're drunk. It seems like a personal attack. Amelia messages the user, Ready to Bloom, and asks them to be her tour guide. She's trying to sound mysterious, and it works. Frankie is worried about the app, but Max feels she needs to put herself out there. Taylor texts her little brother for dinner, but he has a last-minute plan. She asks Hannah to clock out early because she has more time. She plans to go home and get takeout and doesn't think having fun is an option at her age. That's typical millennial behavior. The user strangely reminds Amelia of her late husband. She has invited him to the bar for fun. Taylor reluctantly joins Classify too. She finds a post from someone about heart and muscle and messages them back. Just when Amelia feels her stranger will not show up, her son does. Zach is surprised she's back in town. Amelia claims she wanted to call him, but this last-minute addition to the tour was very sudden. She claims her publisher thinks a passionate hometown crowd gets great press. Zach invites her to stay at the house since he has kept her room as it is. Amelia feels awkward and claims she doesn't want to impose. But she's proud of how good he looks and asks if he's meeting someone. Zach explains that a woman who likes gin on Classify called him to the bar. Well, this is awkward. He's embarrassed about matching with his mother, but she thinks this shows how compatible they are. Nice save, Amelia. She explains that she's only using the app for research. Zach wonders if Taylor even knows that she's back in town. Taylor looks around for her date and asks a guy about his screen name. He clarifies he's not as hard as a muscle. Could have fooled anyone. Her real match turns out to be Frankie, who was worried Taylor might be too cool for her. Margot is shocked to see Amelia at the bookstore a few days earlier. She knows everything about Amelia, at least what's legal to know. Amelia explains that she wanted to make the most of this last stop on her tour. She's looking for a jewelry store because her husband bought her stuff. Margot explains that they went out of business 3 years ago, and it's a coffee shop now. Amelia still asks Margot for some water for her pills. Frankie knows Taylor is confused since she was expecting to meet a guy. Everyone assumes she is a guy, but she clarifies her screen name is because she's a cardiologist. She can see Taylor is awkward, but asks her to join for coffee if she wants. Margot informs the owner, Brian, about Amelia stopping by. It seems like he already knows her but hasn't met her in a long time. He has some notes about Zach's designs that he asks Margot to convey to him. Taylor claims she has no idea who the user could be, just by their screen name. Frankie explains how her friend Max is convinced he can always tell the gender or level of desperation from people's posts. Surely, because he's an expert. Taylor has been meaning to come to this coffee shop for ages since her store is close by. She is struggling in her first year of business, but feels Hannah might be better than her at her job. She resonated with Frankie's post because it seemed like she's a workaholic too. Frankie knows a lot of people who find fulfillment in their jobs. Taylor feels more scared than fulfilled because her job consumes her life. She is always worried about her business failing. She still invites Frankie over anytime she wants and wonders why Frankie is single. She thinks with Frankie's great career and friend circle, people might be setting her up all the time. Frankie admits it's usually her patients trying to set her up with their grandchildren. She isn't interested because she has always dated women. Over time, becoming a physician took priority, and she stopped dating. Frankie joined the app because she hoped to find someone she could be spontaneous with. Taylor doesn't remember the last time she did something for fun, but feels the coffee date counts. Hannah feels Taylor is less uptight and seems like a changed person. Taylor is trying to be open to new things and is genuinely happy. We'll see about that. Her mother, Amelia, walks into the store and feels proud of what Taylor has created. She explains she's on a tour and invites her and Hannah for her reading that week. She feels bad she couldn't attend Taylor's grand opening of the store because something came up. She feels Taylor will understand how important it is to prioritize business. Amelia claims she is finally back to spend some time with Taylor and Zach. Taylor pretends to be busy and taunts her about never calling them. She only sends birthday cards that Zach still hangs on the fridge. Amelia admits she came back for something other than work. Taylor assumes she might be selling the house and kicking Zach out. Amelia assures her she will always take care of her and Zach. Taylor finds that funny since she left town as soon as their dad passed away. They went from having 2 loving parents to none. She doesn't think that's something Amelia can fix with a pit stop during her book tour. Amelia walks out of her shop but experiences pain in her chest. Margot comes to help and wants to call an ambulance. Amelia doesn't let her and thinks she just needs some rest in her penthouse suite. Margot can't let her go because she knows what the pills she had are for. Amelia admits she's on a deadline for a new book, but hasn't been able to write a word. She's also upset about her daughter hating her after she recently suffered a heart attack. She assures Margot she is fine at the moment. Zach is expecting Amelia when Taylor walks in. She is hurt that he knew about Amelia being in town and didn't tell her, but she is mostly mad at Amelia for walking into her shop and pretending like it hasn't been 5 years since she abandoned them. Zach feels like she's trying this time and asks Taylor to leave things in the past. Taylor knows Amelia tracked down Zach first, because he's just like their dad, Alan. She feels he lets people take advantage of him. She shows him the number of drafts he has made for the mural, with no success. She feels he should cut his losses and stop holding out hope that people will change. She soon feels bad for being rude to him, but Zach still prefers if Taylor is mad at him rather than Amelia. He admits he's a pushover like Alan, but he feels that's better than how Taylor is. Taylor is sure Amelia will leave right after her book signing and doesn't think she will come back for them. It's too late for her to forgive Amelia, but she agrees to tolerate her presence in Penfield because she loves Zach. Max asks for updates about Frankie's date with Taylor. She doesn't want to put labels on Taylor's sexuality since she doesn't understand it herself. She thinks Taylor is interesting but doesn't want to fall for her if they're going to end up as friends. She feels a connection but thinks she might never hear back from Taylor. Right then, Taylor texts her, "How convenient." Taylor invites her outside the coffee shop for an adventure. Frankie doesn't know if it's a date, so Max asks her to clarify that. She struggles to reply to something appropriate, and Taylor keeps noticing that she's typing. She shares the experience of her date with Hannah and how she ended up talking to Frankie for 3 hours. She's worried since she hasn't replied yet, but Hannah is excited about Taylor possibly dating a woman. Max tries to type something for Frankie, but she gets an emergency call from work. Margot brings Amelia for a checkup, and Frankie turns out to be her doctor. Who could have guessed? Amelia has been transferred to Frankie's care so she can be close to her family in town. Frankie also reminds her she needs to stop drinking and take medications regularly if she wants her heart to be fit. Frankie wonders why her family isn't there, and Amelia claims she's working on it. Good luck with that. Frankie is worried about another cardiac event, so Amelia assures her she will monitor her diet better. Amelia refuses to have a mimosa at breakfast and asks for juice and tea instead. So far, so good. Zach still feels weird joining Amelia for breakfast and not inviting Taylor. Amelia doesn't think that will be an issue since Taylor never steps out of her shop. She is glad to learn they're close and still do family dinners every week. Zach feels suspicious because Amelia isn't having bucket loads of coffee like she usually does. Amelia assures him she's just focusing on her health. She is glad Zach took time out for her, but he admits he has a lot to spare. He doesn't have much work, but Amelia encourages him about his murals. Zach explains that he's stuck creatively and asks if it ever happens to her. He doesn't think it does because she publishes a book every year. If only he knew. Amelia is sure it'll work out for him but is more concerned about Taylor. She knows Taylor is stubborn and driven like her and will make sure she makes her shop a success. But she feels Taylor might ignore the important things in life because of it. Zach is worried about his personal life, but Amelia seems sure he will figure it out. Since he's more like Alan, she knows Zach can always balance his professional and personal life. Amelia has never been good at that, and neither has Taylor. Amelia makes sure Zach knows she misses him a lot and is working harder on being a present parent. Frankie finds Taylor at her shop, but she feels awkward for assuming Frankie ghosted her. Frankie explained that she got called in for work and was going to reply. Taylor also fumbles about dealing with watering plant work emergencies all the time. Surely that sounds convincing. Frankie is impressed with how she has kept a small business running in a terrible economy. Hannah is too excited to meet Frankie, so Taylor feels they should talk somewhere else. Frankie asks if they can meet that night, and Hannah already loves the vibe between them. Taylor explains that she closes at 7, but Frankie needs to show her something an hour earlier. Hannah instantly offers to close shop for her, so Taylor can go on her second date. Amelia is still struggling with her book, but insists on staying sober. She's glad to see Brian at the bar, who turns out to be an old friend. Frankie brings Taylor out on a hike, but she clarifies she's not an outdoorsy person. She went bowling instead of camping in her childhood, but Frankie encouraged her to carry on. Amelia is surprised Brian has kept her first book in perfect condition. He has read all her books, but saved this one so she could sign it. He admits he knows about her being in town through his employee, Margot. Amelia is impressed that he bought the bookstore. Brian admits he got interested in the bookstore because of Amelia. He was obsessed with her short stories, which helped him start reading in general. He soon resented his accounting job and bought the bookstore after his divorce. He claims the split with his ex-wife was mutual because they both didn't feel the spark. He is still glad to meet Amelia again and doesn't think she'll come back after Alan's passing. Since she's not drinking apparently because of work, Brian instantly knows there's a health issue. Taylor loves the view that Frankie shows her but still doesn't like the hiking part. She's confused about what she's doing, even if she thinks Frankie is great. She is worried about messing things up between them, but Frankie thinks everyone does. She is just happy that Taylor can be honest with her and kisses her. Zach comes looking for Taylor at the store since she's not responding to his texts. He also doesn't believe Taylor could be having fun or doing something other than work. Hannah tries to distract him with talk of his mural, so he leaves and asks Hannah to deliver his message. Amelia admits she didn't plan on staying away from town for so long. It just became easier to not feel Alan's absence when she was away. This town keeps reminding her of the life they built there and the time they shared their first kiss across the street. She claims she left because she didn't want her kids to feel her pain. But now they hate her because they don't understand. She's terrible at these conversations because Andy is better at confronting the kids. Brian is sure if Taylor is anything like Amelia, she will eventually understand when her anger fades. She feels bad for unloading on him, but he feels glad to be there for her. Brian admits he has always had feelings for Amelia. She claims Alan already knew that, which is why he proposed so quickly. They discuss their need to make new choices, especially with her kids. She realized only after her heart attack that she didn't have a lot of time to explain to her kids why she left. He offers to take her back to the hotel when she experiences pain, but she brings him to Zach's place. Brian asks her to call if she needs anything, and she's excited about moving in. She reminds Zach that he offered to let her stay, but he's surprised she agreed. He was assuming she would leave after her reading. Amelia wants to stay back longer, and Zach hopes it's not because of Brian. He feels Brian looks like a scammer. Amelia clarifies that he is an old friend. Amelia also admits she deliberately pressured her publisher to send her to Penfield. She also tells Zach about her heart attack a few months ago. Zach is offended she didn't tell him and Taylor about this for so long. Amelia claims she was scared of Taylor, but Zach doesn't let her dodge the blame. He reminds her that Taylor is giving her a hard time because of the choices she made. He knows Amelia was trying to protect them by staying away, but she just drove the wedge deeper. Someone had to say it. Amelia feels coming home is a bad idea and tries to leave again. Zach doesn't let her walk away and forces her to keep her bags down. Amelia thinks Zach is a gifted artist, but he doesn't understand why he has been rejected by the bookstore so many times. Amelia knows the problem, but is scared to tell him the truth. She remembers how Alan was always good at knowing the right thing to say. She finished her first book because of him. Amelia knows even when she tries to be helpful, it ends up sounding like criticism. Zach gets her point, but he really wants her opinion this time. She asks him to focus more on the people of Penfield than the business side in his mural. She feels real people have more impact than deceased writers. Surely, it was not that simple. But since she has solved his problem, she asks him to help with hers. Hannah feels now that she's taking on more responsibility. She should get a raise. Taylor knows she deserves it, but business is not doing too well. Taylor still promises her a raise if the business does better. Hannah asks about her next date with Frankie, and already knows it will be very romantic. They have been on a few dates till now, and Hannah already thinks it's time for them to adopt a cat together. Taylor leaves the store in her hands, but asks her not to burn it down. Taylor is excited about family dinner with Zach and has a lot to discuss. Her mood changes with Amelia's presence, and she thinks Zach set her up. Taylor walks out, and Zach admits he should have been honest with her. But Zach knows Taylor wouldn't have come if he was honest. Taylor still doesn't want to make peace with Amelia, but Zach is tired of choosing between them. He feels their dad would have wanted them together, but Taylor doesn't seem ready to face Amelia yet. Zach takes her bowling instead, and is terrible at it. Taylor is confident about her chances and wins even with an awkward walk. Seems unbelievable. She asks him to do what works for him, despite what people think. He manages to do it right this time, and they break for drinks. He knows Margot is there because of her obsession with the bowling league. She admits she wants their leader to fail, so Zach offers to infiltrate the team. He introduces Taylor to Margot and promises to give her the mural soon. He admits Amelia helped him with an idea. He even tries to make a cool closing statement about the bowling league, but Taylor drags him away. What a relief, since he was being too awkward. She thinks Zach should ask Margot out on a real date. Zach doesn't think she's interested, but Taylor saw her checking him out. Taylor admits she's dating Frankie, which is why she wants to be alone with him for dinner. She doesn't want to share this in front of Amelia because they don't have a relationship where they talk to each other. Zach feels it doesn't matter who she is dating, as long as the person is good to her. She hugs him because he always knows the right thing to do. Taylor informs him that she met Frankie on Classify. He gets a call from Amelia, and they rush to the hospital. Taylor is panicking about Amelia having a heart attack. That panic soon turns into confusion when she realizes Frankie is her doctor. Amelia asks Frankie to tell them her condition, since she doesn't want more secrets. Frankie knows this time it was a panic attack for Amelia, who has similar symptoms. Frankie feels confident about treating it, but asks Amelia to be careful about her emotions. Taylor feels like the blame is on her for stressing Amelia out. Amelia and Brian don't understand why she's not happy about it not being a heart attack. Even Zach is confused when he realizes Frankie is Taylor's date. When Taylor runs out, Frankie follows her. Amelia sees the tension between them and is happy to realize her daughter is dating a doctor. Finally, something that is not confusing. Frankie explains she never knew Amelia was Taylor's mother till she listed her as the emergency contact. She didn't know Taylor's last name because there was no information on the app. Taylor is surprised that she's Amelia's emergency contact when they haven't spoken in years. Frankie can tell Amelia has a lot of regrets and must have come all this way to be close to her kids. Taylor doesn't like Frankie taking Amelia's side. Frankie thinks Taylor shouldn't leave things off like this, in case Amelia has another heart attack. Taylor reminds Frankie she doesn't know her mother as well as she does. She feels Amelia always cares about her admirers, and the world revolves around her. Frankie feels she's being cynical and not acting right, so Taylor breaks up with her. Taylor is distracted at work and hasn't noticed that Hannah has posted an ad for their shop on Classify. She has even offered a 10% discount on everyone who responds to the post. Taylor feels she can't afford that, but Hannah knows the increased footfall will make up for it. She is sure people will show up very soon. Hannah also wants to leave early for Amelia's book signing that day. She has been obsessed with Amelia's spy novel since she was a kid. She asks Taylor to understand that some people will slay to have a cool and complicated mom like her. Hannah has ended up idolizing Amelia since she didn't have a mother figure growing up. Taylor is still upset about Amelia abandoning them, but Hannah asks her to consider she might be back for a reason. Frankie wants to delete the app because of what happened with Taylor. She knows she overstepped but is glad to have Max as a friend. She asks him to be her +1 for Amelia's event. When Zach and Margot finish working on the mural, Brian finally approves of it. Amelia is disappointed Taylor is not coming, but Margot and Brian assure her the event will be great. Zach flirts with Margot and feels she has all the qualities to make a guy ask her out. That was smooth, and Margot agreed too. She agrees to go on a date with him after the event. When Frankie comes for the reading, Zach asks her to keep an eye on Amelia so she doesn't exert herself. Taylor hasn't seen Zach's painting of her because she has distanced herself from everyone. Zach knows it's because Taylor is very good at punishing herself. Taylor realizes she can still make it to the reading and rushes out. Amelia feels this reading is different from all the times she has done it. She feels encouraged when she watches Taylor walk in. She admits her trip to Penfield has been an awakening. She knows she abandoned her children to deal with their grief after her husband passed, which she regrets a lot. She explains that she just couldn't handle her life in town without him. She praises Zach's mural and loves that he sees the best in people. She is also proud of what Taylor has done with Blue Maria and asks everyone to gather to check it out. She is proud of every bold and brave choice Taylor has made and hopes she gets back with Frankie too. Her trip has also made her realize she wants to focus on complicated love stories through her writing. During a party at their place, Amelia is writing a lot when inspiration strikes. She asks Taylor to consider moving home, but she doesn't want to when business is picking up. Taylor knows it's because of Hannah's ad and wants to give her a raise. Taylor teases Amelia about Brian and has heard from Zach that she stays out late at night. Frankie and Taylor are now officially dating, and she brings her flowers. Taylor admits things are great since she started trying to fix her relationship with Amelia. When Amelia's editor, Graham, shows up, Frankie gets excited. He is Max's type and she wants to set them up.